So we've got a lot of news to cover in this news roundup because it's been a few days since I've done my last one. Not only do we have DC finding its new Kevin Feige role, major DC movie delays as well, which is, man, we've got a little bit to talk about there, and some comments on Ben Affleck's return. We have some unfortunate news on the new Batman animated series that was titled Caped Cruscader, but maybe, just maybe, a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel there. Also getting into some Batgirl news with regards to some screenings for the movie, believe it or not. A very fantastic addition to The Boys Season 4, and we'll also be getting into who is in talks to be directing the MCU's Fantastic Four movie. And then, yes, there's even more stuff that I wanted to shove in this video with regards to the somewhat video game realm, believe it or not. So we have news of that of a BioShock movie, also some Gotham Knights stuff with regards to new characters being revealed in the new trailer, and some Last of Us HBO Max footage. And then, yes, believe it or not, there is more. We have, you know, freaking House of the Dragon news with regards to Season 2 stuff to talk about. Another Rings of Power trailer and the way it's being received in the first couple of episodes, and probably more that I'm forgetting about. This video will be timestamped, of course. They are long videos, but hey, if you want to skip to a certain subject, just go to it. You know, that's all you have to do, or maybe stay tuned for the whole video. But if you would go on to enjoy this, I'd really appreciate your support just through hitting that like button. Helps grow my channel a little bit more so I can do more videos just like this. So let's get into story number 1 today, and this is some big stuff, like really big stuff. It goes without saying that Warner Brothers Discovery under David Zaslav's leadership has been making some bold moves. They want quality movies. They want to rival the MCU, as in rival Kevin Feige. Take inspiration even from that of finding their own Kevin Feige role, and they may have just found their guy. So this is coming to us from The Hollywood Reporter, and they say, has the new head of DC been found? Dan Lin, the executive turned producer who counts hits such as the live-action Aladdin, the Lego Movie, and the It horror movies among his credits, is in talks to take the role of DC chief, multiple sources tell The Hollywood Reporter. The role would encompass overseeing not just film, but television as well, with Lin reporting directly to Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav, according to sources. The proposed structure would bypass 3 separate division heads, Warner Brothers Pictures heads Michael DeLuca and Pam Abdi, HBO/HBO Max chief Casey Bloys, and Warner Brothers TV chair Channing Dungey, and put control of DC in the hands of one person. Now, Walter Hamada, the current head of DC Films, would transition out of the role, according to sources. A Warner's insider says that no negotiations are taking place and no official offer has been made, although other sources say the parties are discussing salary, reporting structure, and the future of Lin's prolific production company, Rideback. If any deal does close, it would cap one of the most intense executive searches in recent memory, one that faced scrutiny by rival Hollywood producers and executives as well as DC fans. He has worked on franchises, the Robert Downey Jr. starring Sherlock Holmes features, the 4 Lego movies, as well as the wildly successful 2-part adaptation of Stephen King's It. His resume ranges from big offerings such as the billion-dollar grossing Aladdin to intimate dramas such as the Oscar-nominated The Two Popes. So I know that was a bit of a readout, but I just wanted to give as much detail as I could there as what is being reported. And the way I feel about this is just, it's interesting. We knew this was going to happen at some point, and it's kind of somewhat the way I view it for now. No matter, well, I guess not no matter who is chosen, because they could choose a certain somebody and everyone unanimously is like, what are you doing, Warner Brothers Discovery? But what I'm trying to get at here is it's kind of impossible to see how this will unfold until we see how Dan Lin performs, really. And if it, you know, the DC and the future of DC with that 10-year plan as what they were talking about at the Warner Brothers Discovery quarterly earnings report, how that will go. They want to focus on major quality, and as, you know, we read out here, they want to rival Feige. Give the responsibility of the film divisions, the TV stuff, all down to one dude. Now, don't get me wrong. Directors, etc., showrunners will have a lot of creative freedom there, but just kind of like what Feige does, he will be the helping hand, making sure things are going along a certain route, making certain decisions if he feels like maybe it isn't, or maybe just helping if things are in doubt so it navigates a better course. That would be the best wish, of course. Now, from my perspective as well, there's a recent clip going around that at least gave me a little bit of insight as to how much Dan Lin really wants this and has wanted it in the past. And so when previously he was asked, what's the one franchise you wished was yours? He said in response, honestly, DC was the one that got away. When I first started my producing career in 2008, I was producing Justice League with George Miller directing, moved my family to Australia. I was going to have a very different life, and I was going to basically be overseeing the DC franchise. That got away. Why I wanted to make Lego Batman was my way of getting back into DC, but it's in a very different way. But yes, obviously that's the one I wish, oh, if only I could have done the things I wanted to do with DC, that would have been very exciting. So it is kind of full circle here. I mean, I guess he hasn't solidified, okay, new Kevin Feige of DCEU, or should I say Warner Brothers Discovery's DC plan is Dan Lin. That's not been slapped down right now, but it seems like it's very much so going that way. But it's the very thing he's wanted, and it's just nice to know that he does want it a lot and he has a vision. Now, the reactions I'm seeing through social media, whether that's from mutuals or just the hashtags and everything like that, as you know, I like to keep an ear to the ground for a general response. People seem to be preferring this option over the rumored talks of maybe Greg Berlanti taking this singular role, you know, only reporting to one person, and that is Zaslav himself. So I would love to know your thoughts on that. Do you feel positive? Do you agree with me that no matter what perspective we have here, we kind of need to see what the crop produces, so to speak, under this new Feige-like figure for DC? That's basically the story for now, but as we know, Warner Brothers Discovery are getting their house very much so in order according to their future plan. Now moving on to the next story, despite this news of how some steps seem to be taken forward, there are some steps back for the movies that come under the old Warner Brothers regime. Not that they're, you know, not liking them, it's just that there's always seeming to be another story that is just making things delayed. And that's the key word, because more DC movies have been delayed, and that is Aquaman 2 and Shazam! Fury of the Gods. So let's get into this one, and yeah, I have a little bit to say about this. So the Hollywood Reporter headline is Aquaman Shazam sequels push back release dates. The James Wan directed Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom has been pushed back more than 8 months, from March 17th, 2023 to December 25th. 2023, the studio announced Wednesday. Also moving is Shazam sequel Fury of the Gods, which was meant to come out in December of this year. It has landed on Aquaman 2's old date, March 17th, 2023. The unusual move comes after a change in leadership at Warner's, with newly installed Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav prioritizing cost-cutting measures and refocusing Warner's on creating theatrical films rather than projects for streaming. Now, when you kind of zoom out the box, dig a little deeper with this story, there's kind of like a multifaceted reasoning behind this. Now, the cost-cutting measures is kind of one aspect of it, but with also the changes in what they're planning. For example, Batgirl, completely shelved, will never see the light of day, even though we have got some news on how it technically is seeing the light of day for a certain few people, so stay tuned for that story. But for example, Keaton doesn't look to be going out in the DCEU's future other than just that of the Flash movie. So there's now new rumors floating out there that with Ben Affleck returning for Aquaman 2, he could be the Batman still in the main canon DCEU timeline, and with these release dates shuffling once again, there could be certain changes being made there as well. But there is some money side of things, and that is under the cost-cutting side. So if you want to know a little bit about that, the writer of the article for The Hollywood Reporter said on Twitter, the moves underscore what a financial mess Warner Brothers Discovery is, as the studio has only enough cash to release 2 movies from now to the end of this year. Don't Worry Darling and Black Adam. So he's quite literally saying, you know, as what we've reported recently, they have $3 billion. $3 billion to trim the fat off. It's not just like Batgirl being a tax write-off, but also them putting it down to it's not really part of their creative vision. But you've heard about various HBO Max shows like Scoob that was basically complete and how that broke the director's heart. Like they're just shelving a lot of things. Also taking episodes and whatnot off multiple series off of HBO Max so they don't have to pay residuals. Like all of these things are under and linked under the same umbrella. But we also have the writer of the article updating what he said on Twitter, saying low-budget comedy House Party intended for HBO Max is now getting a release in December, so that makes 3. So he was just saying, okay, so there is 3, but the thing is, but no denying the no money to market movies problem the studio is facing right now. So again, even though there may be other underlying things that they might change with these release date delays, so what we were talking about earlier is, are they going to incorporate and reshoot maybe a couple of things with regards to Affleck and The Flash and Keaton and stuff like that? Who knows there? But the other actual underlying reason is, yeah, we kind of don't have enough money to market those movies because, as you know, marketing big movies, like tentpole movies, can cost hundreds of millions of dollars. So, you know, I think the only DC movie that is kind of releasing this year, or was, you know, is The Batman, Super Pets, and Blackout. I'm probably forgetting something. But it's pretty crazy. What's interesting about this to me is, after going over that, is what this tells me and many other people is that if those movies have been delayed, it might very well be that The Flash with Ezra Miller could be pushed back again as well. But for now, this means Aquaman 2 is taking place, or should I say happening and releasing after the Flash movie again. Now, if you're wondering what I mean there, it's just been going back and forth, before the Flash, after the Flash, before the Flash, after the Flash, and that changed things up. For example, you may have heard in the test screenings, Keaton had a cameo at the end of Aquaman 2, and fans were just confused in the test screening, and especially with regards to the release date, with how it was coming out before the Flash movie, it didn't really make sense, because Keaton appears in the Flash movie, and with their original direction, was going to echo out into the universe of the DCEU from there on out, but things have changed, as we've already been over. This is why Ben Affleck is coming back, because Aquaman was coming out before the Flash movie, so it makes sense to have the then, in the timeline and of chronology, current Batman in Aquaman 2, right? Leading up to the Flash movie. But now, Aquaman 2 is happening after the Flash movie again, so it's just like, well, technically, I'm not saying this is the case, obviously, but technically the Keaton cameo is the relevant one, but probably isn't anymore, and most likely isn't, because they likely do not have any plans for Keaton beyond the Flash movie anymore, so it's just weird. It's really weird. All of it is weird. But having said that anyway, that's only as of how it currently stands. For example, The Flash wasn't announced amongst those release date shifts, so I could imagine it being pushed back to after Aquaman again. There's actually a likelihood in that to me as well, because considering these movies have been pushed back, and The Flash, you know, let's just say is being pushed back to 2024, that would only be beneficial from a standpoint of more time and more distance between the happenings of Ezra Miller and all of the drama there, and how that was going to, and still will, impact the Flash movie. Considering how it is, you know, just under a year away, June 23rd, 2023, even more time could make people forget certain things, as if, you know, like what the internet's like and the world is like, as if it's old news. Now, I'm not saying people are going to forget things. I'm just saying, let's just say The Flash gets pushed back from June to 2024, which makes sense with these release date changes already. I mean, Aquaman, my god, that would feel like a century in terms of the internet pop culture realm, and could very well actually, marketing-wise, strategy and business-wise, be beneficial to the film, especially, and this does hinge on if Ezra Miller and nothing happens with them from this moment onwards, especially since the apology. That would only be beneficial. So watch this space to see if The Flash does get delayed as well in the coming months. Moving on from that, but somewhat related, is some Ben Affleck news. Now, I don't want to get anyone's hopes up here, but Jason Momoa, in an interview with Access Hollywood, there's a video clip of it, but essentially they asked, what can you tease us about your reunion with Mr. Affleck? And they were specifically asking about how, you know, he posted that picture with him and Ben Affleck since it got out. I was like, okay, yeah, Ben is appearing in the Flash movie, and as we know, it's essentially to replace the scene with Michael Keaton. He says, I love Ben. I love him deeply. And yeah, it, Ben's coming back. Hey, right here on Access. Yeah, it's wonderful. We have a lot of surprises. It's a fun journey and a lot of laughs, and I'm excited for everyone to see it. Now, again, I am not saying that Ben Affleck isn't returning for the post-Flashpoint new DCEU that's going to take place in the next several years in a 10-year plan. I'm not saying that he won't be it, but I do just want to say he was answering a question with regards to the Ben Affleck tease that he put out there a little while back now. So he was just saying for the first time on video camera outside of his Instagram post in an interview, yeah, screw it, you know, Ben's coming back, you know. It doesn't mean Ben's coming back, period, but obviously with the way things are unfolding, it really does start to feel as though Ben Affleck is, and you know, I get a lot of comments after making these videos saying, oh, come on, Boba, it's obvious that Ben's going to be coming back as the DCEU Batman. I'm not disagreeing with you. I just, you know, am reporting what is currently out there, and this is strictly technically what he was answering. But yeah, it's great to see Jason Momoa really happy and talking about how great it is to have Ben back in Aquaman 2, in addition to his cameo in the Flash movie, obviously. And I'd just love to know everyone's thoughts on that. But story number 3, I think, I'm going to lose count in this video, but we have some unfortunate news about Batman Caped Crusader. Now, with all the HBO Max happenings, and as what I was saying earlier, with how much they're cost-cutting, Deadline report the following: Batman Caped Crusader series not moving forward at HBO Max. So despite Batman Caped Crusader being given a straight-to-series order in May 2021, Deadline go on to say that Batman Caped Crusader, an animated series from executive producers Bruce Timm, J.J. Abrams, and Matt Reeves, will not be moving forward at HBO Max, sources have confirmed to Deadline. They go on to say that they are among dozens of titles that have been cut or removed from the streaming service as Warner Bros. Discovery continues its cost-cutting measures and ahead of the merger of the HBO Max and Discovery Plus services next year, of which some sources are also saying don't be surprised if it does get a new name. So like HBO Max and Discovery Plus being merged into, I don't know, HBO Plus. But either way, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There is a light. I don't want to get people's hopes up with this, but TV Line hears that all 6 projects, mostly from Warner Bros. Animation, will continue production while they are shopped to other outlets. So they are being shopped around. It doesn't mean that Batman Caped Crusader is no longer ever going to see the light of day. It's just there's no light of day for it on HBO Max. So you could see it appear again. Where do you think would be a suitable home for it if it was to be picked up by them? But that more or less, you know, cuts that story there. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens. Alright, so up next is some brand new information on the Batgirl movie. Believe it or not, this story doesn't really seem to cease because it just kind of gets more and more interesting. So from the Hollywood Reporter as well, secret Batgirl screenings hit the Warner Brothers lot. The cancelled DC film is getting funeral screenings before footage is put under lock and key. Now here we have some very intriguing information with what they're doing now, but with what they actually plan to do to this movie, and also some address from the directors themselves. So they say that Batgirl won't be flying onto HBO Max screens, but a select group of insiders is getting to see the film during secret screenings on the Warner Brothers lot this week. They are said to be for people who worked on the movie, both cast and crew, as well as representatives and executives. One source described them as funeral screenings held before the film is sent off to an undisclosed afterlife with footage locked away in a vault, either physical or digital. And you may have already seen it by now, but we have the directors of Batgirl also releasing a video at the very end kind of promoting their new movie, showing a way you can still support their movies and whatnot, but they kind of recount how shocked they were when they found out about it. They were like, quick, let's go onto the server so we can maybe just get our phone and record it. They know that's bad, they don't promote piracy, but they were just, you know, in the moment and panicking, but they couldn't even do that. They were locked out of it as soon as they tried to even view their own work, which is just, that's really sucky. I know technically Warner Brothers Discovery do indeed own it. These are the directors, but it's not technically their property. Like, so Warner Brothers Discovery does have every right to do that, but I do feel deeply sad that as a director, you can't even kind of, you know, if you want to one night, be like, I know this movie's never coming out, but, you know, I want to see what that Keaton scene looked like again. But I understandably, at the same time, it's a preventative measure, so it wouldn't turn into another Zack Snyder's Justice League situation in where it gets leaked and whatnot. They were straight away putting it under lock and key. But the thing is, anyway, you may have heard that already with regards to the comparison to getting another hashtag of, you know, restore the Snyder Cut or something. Granted that this wouldn't remotely be as strong as that movement, but it couldn't even get that chance anyway because of one simple reason. It's a tax write-down. They can't monetize this movie. It could never be released in terms of like the commercial theatrical way. Now, the Hollywood Reporter go on to say some more interesting information here by saying, generally, a studio will not get the full tax write-down immediately on a money-losing project, but rather will get a certain percentage right away and the rest over a period of years. That's because it's unclear how much a project might make or lose over its lifetime as it hits cable and other platforms. Several sources suggest that Warner's might make the drastic move of actually destroying its Batgirl footage as a way to demonstrate to the IRS that there will never be any revenue from the project, and thus it should be entitled to the full write-down immediately. Other sources dispute that notion, noting that there are other projects that still have footage locked away that will never see the light of day, such as HBO's first Game of Thrones spin-off pilot, Blood Moon, an hour of television that not even author George R.R. Martin has seen. There is also the possibility that Warner's could, down the road, decide Batgirl is worth releasing and pay back the government its tax liability. So, you know, a bit of conflicting source information there saying, okay, maybe they're going to absolutely destroy it. You know, if they're never going to release it, let's demonstrate to the IRS that, look, deleted. Like, there isn't even any film footage. Quite literally, please give us the tax write-down immediately. But again, that is, you know, kind of conflicted with, but that's not true because we do actually have legitimate footage that we've locked away before. It's still there. People haven't even viewed it. You know, even George R.R. Martin with that pilot of the spin-off Blood Moon. So Batgirl isn't any different. It will still be existing, just again, in an afterlife, a digital afterlife. And again, as they note, the latter, but completely likely not going to happen with regards to if Warner Bros. Discovery ever did decide it's worth releasing and, you know, then they could pay back the government and then release it. But yeah, that's all there is to the story. Thought I'd update you on that. I would like to see Warner Brothers host a UK screening in the same way they're doing that in America for the UK crew. Don't forget, there's a lot of UK crew there who probably can't go out to America and attend this. I know it is for executive and insiders, but they did mention crew, and there's a lot of crew over this side as well. So I think they should get that opportunity. But up next, guys, we have a very interesting story covering The Boys. Now, this is going to be quite a quick one, but I'm very happy about this, and that is Deadline report here by saying Jeffrey Dean Morgan, The Walking Dead, Supernatural, has joined the cast of Amazon's The Boys Season 4 as a recurring guest star. Details regarding the character he will play remain under wraps. His work on the series will reunite Morgan with Supernatural creator Eric Kripke, who serves as showrunner of The Boys. During his time on the CW series, he played John Winchester in a recurring capacity. And it's great, by the way, seeing the cast reacting to this on Twitter. You have Carl Urban replying like mind blown, and various other people. We also have behind the scenes photo of the cast on season 4's set. So obviously I covered The Boys this year. I'll be covering it again next year. So stay tuned to this channel for updates like this. Let me know as well who you think that Jeffrey Dean Morgan could play. I think he's an exceptionally talented actor. You know, I know not everyone is into Walking Dead as much as the early seasons, but he did do a very good job with Negan. One thing I can say is I feel like he has to be a villain. But oh man, after seeing Negan on The Walking Dead, then thinking of Soups in The Boys, it just makes you think, oh man, they have to do that. They have to cast him as a crazy Homelander-esque type person. Okay, so now going into the Marvel side of things, we've got some interesting news here, and that is from Deadline with the headline going as follows: WandaVision director Matt Shakman in talks to helm Marvel's Fantastic Four movie. So they go on to say that after playing a big part in helping launch the Marvel Studios limited series WandaVision, Matt Shakman may be ready to help launch one of the studio's prized movie properties. Sources tell Deadline that Shakman is in early talks to direct Marvel's new Fantastic Four pick. Rumors have been running rampant in recent weeks that he was in the mix for the job, and insiders are now telling Deadline that while a formal offer hasn't been presented, early discussions have begun and that things are headed in the right direction. Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige is producing. So, we have finally some more information on Fantastic Four. Obviously, it's a part of the slate that we got revealed at Comic-Con. And I don't really know how to feel about this so much right now. I'm not feeling bad. I'm just not feeling like, oh my god, this director. I liked WandaVision, don't get me wrong. I don't think it was amazing, especially in the latter half, in terms of more the writing. But I did still really subjectively enjoy that quite a lot because of Elizabeth Olsen, and it was fun, even though a lot of the teases and baits didn't really amount to much. But at the end of the day, we have a familiarity with his work with WandaVision. He's also doing that next Star Trek movie, among other things. So I would just love to know your thoughts on this. Obviously, Fantastic Four is a little while away from now, but obviously the ball is now rolling. So what do you think of this choice? Do you have much of an opinion on it, or are you just kind of waiting to see how the boat sails on these new waters of Matt Shakman taking the role of director for the MCU's Fantastic Four? We already know about this movie not being an origin story, by the way, but rather, you know, picking up, I guess, as at a certain time of where maybe they're already formed, but I'm sure it will refer to their origins at the same time. A weird example, but one that's quite accurate. It's like, for example, Matt Reeves' The Batman wasn't another origin story. Oh, Martha's pearls landing on the floor again. It was about a Batman in year 2 who was still becoming, but referred to his origins. I'm thinking in that sense only, the Fantastic Four movie, as what Kevin Feige teased, will be taking a similar approach, if you will, in that way. So up next is some very interesting news, and I'm sure in this audience there's quite a few gamers out there, and that is we're getting a BioShock movie. It's found its director, I believe its writer, and it's coming to Netflix. Now, if you didn't already know, I am a big BioShock fan. I freaking loved BioShock 1. It is truly a remarkable video game. Absolute insane ideas there. I mean, on my desk, I have a freaking Big Daddy here. If you couldn't tell, I love this. And I'll talk a little bit more about it after I read out this report. So they say that the long-awaited feature film adaptation of the renowned video game franchise BioShock looks to be gaining momentum in a big way. Sources tell Deadline that Netflix has tapped Hunger Games director Francis Lawrence to helm the pick, with Michael Green adapting the script. The directing and writing assignment had been among the more sought-after jobs in the industry after Netflix said in February that it was partnering with video game holding company Take-Two Interactive and its game publisher subsidiary 2K to produce a BioShock film. Since then, the studio and its partners have been aiming high on who would help guide this project given the scope of the property, looking at A-list directors and writers for the job. So, let's get into my thoughts on this because, again, as a huge BioShock fan, this could be amazing. Because if they don't realize the scope, as, you know, detailed here, it has a big scope to this property, so they want to go after A-list directors, A-list writers, then anything but that wouldn't do justice to it. If this is done well, it would be amazing. If you don't know much about BioShock, it is just a wonder of a story. I can really imagine when, for example, entering Rapture for the first time, you essentially, you know, this plane crashes, you're stranded in the sea, and out before you there, in the sea, is a lighthouse. You go down in the lighthouse, you enter this somewhat container, and it's like, okay, what's going on here? Everything is really prestigious, very old-fashioned-y, if you will, and you're taken down, and you're somewhat narrated on this dream and this underwater city that is known as Rapture. And I'm sure you're seeing some of the gameplay on screen right now, but can you imagine the visuals of this? But when you go down there, you know, this paradise, this utopia, if you will, isn't quite what it once was intended, if you will, to be. And it's like this, oh man, it's just so great. It is just so great. So I am very excited for this. I mean, it is kind of nostalgia hype because at the end of the day, I've seen nothing for this movie. I have no idea if it's going to be great or not. But knowing that they are putting a lot of stake into this, and knowing, for example, how good Sandman is, the Sandman on Netflix, which had quite a high budget as well. The BioShock movie does look to be, from Netflix, one project that they want to get right, and they are putting the relevant money and hiring decisions on nailing it. So if you're a BioShock fan, would you kindly let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. Can't wait to see some of your thoughts on what this could mean. Now, speaking of video game talk, we did get a new Gotham Knights trailer. I don't know how many people are hyped for Gotham Knights because, you know, there's mixed opinions out there. It's the kind of game that I definitely want to play with friends for sure, but there are also some critiques out there where it's like, do I really want to spend full price on it? But either way, the news is, in the new trailer, we got to see Harley Quinn and Clayface. I'm sure it's going to be a part of just more and more things you can do with your friends in co-op mode out there in the city. It does look like there's going to be a lot of content, and, you know, for what it's worth, I think they look pretty great. So, very quick update there. We'd just love to know what you think about Harley Quinn and Clayface being involved in the Gotham Knights game. And in more video game 2 live action talk, should have probably mentioned this story before the Gotham Knights actual video game news, and that is that, of course, quite a few days ago now, a bit late covering this, we got some footage for The Last of Us on HBO Max. Now, it was a part of this larger trailer advertising upcoming films and projects on HBO Max that are coming, and the back portion of it featured some, it's almost like a teeny little sizzle reel of some footage. We see Joel and Ellie just kind of walking out there, and I'm sure there's many Last of Us fans here, and, you know, one thing I'm very happy about, and I've been behind since day one, is Pedro Pascal. I admit, I'm kind of biased here because I love Pedro Pascal, but we've also got Bella Ramsey playing Ellie. I'm sure you've seen clip comparisons out there with Joel in The Last of Us saying, "You have no idea what loss is." I'm a terrible example there in that accent, but comparing it to "You have no idea what loss is" from Pedro Pascal. Again, obviously, this is an adaptation. You're not kind of meant to look at it like, okay, Joel is literally Troy Baker 100%, and the exact follicle of hair on his beard is identical. No, but it will be done very faithfully as what we're seeing here. The action, the scope of this does look exciting, and I will be reviewing it, doing news updates in separate videos as well on this channel. So when we do get an actual proper trailer, I'll be doing an in-depth breakdown. Just know about that. And I would love to know your thoughts on this Last of Us footage down in the comments. Now, speaking of trailers as well, we did get a new Rings of Power trailer, which unfortunately I didn't have time to cover, but it just kind of reminds me as well of the larger talk going on at the minute. So quite a few people did get the chance to see the first couple of episodes, I believe, of the Rings of Power, and despite how many naysayers for various different reasons there are for Amazon's The Lord of the Rings of Power, I'm seeing from outlets that I follow and really respect, by the way, actually saying that it is very decent, like very good even, extremely cinematic, which isn't surprising because they poured a ridiculous amount of money on this series, and there's even reports now that based on how the Rings of Power does, it would determine Amazon's future in streaming, at least I guess the way they tackle it and whatnot. But again, I just wanted to talk about this, that with this new Lord of the Rings of Power show, despite some of the comments from fans saying, oh, okay, they're deviating this lore is changing here, there, X everywhere and whatnot, it does still seem to be, from certain reviewers out there, and a lot of reviewers, I might add, those who have seen it, is saying don't listen to X amount of people. It does actually, or it is really, really good after what I've seen. So regardless of how you feel about this, and I am a huge Lord of the Rings fan, by the way, a very big Lord of the Rings fan, I'm still going to take it in my stride in terms of I want to see it first. You know, no matter what, I just want to watch it and just then give my opinion. I do understand some of the fair enough critiques about it. Some of them I definitely don't agree with, but there are some relevant ones. But we're going to have to wait and see how this one pans out. But I just wanted to include it in there. New trailer, giving us some new action sequences and some, you know, new scenes and whatnot, but also that there has been positive reviews about this show. And what you can let me know down in the comments is, will you be watching on Amazon Prime The Lord of the Rings of Power? And lastly, everyone, for today's news roundup, we have some updates on House of the Dragon. By the way, watch my review and breakdown. I did it the other day. I know it was late. Unfortunately, I was busy. It will be on time next week. But anyway, to the news here. House of the Dragon, unsurprisingly, has been renewed for Season 2. It was always planned for multiple seasons, don't get me wrong, but obviously they were kind of waiting to see how the premiere done, and it absolutely crushed it, by the way. Maybe you've already heard about this, but it is done incredibly incredibly well with its numbers. And we have a quote here saying, "Our phenomenal cast and crew undertook a massive challenge and exceeded all expectations, delivering a show that has already established itself as a must-see TV," Orsi said. "A huge thank you to George, Ryan, Miguel for leading us on this journey. We couldn't be more excited to continue bringing to life the epic saga of House Targaryen with Season 2. So, are you happy that it got a Season 2, even though we haven't even seen Episode 2 yet? Let me know down in the comments below. I do recommend checking out my breakdown. I'll be doing it every single week, so hopefully I'll see you there on those breakdown videos. But that just about wraps up today's news. I'm sorry I'm late with this one. Essentially, long story short, for those of you who are still here with me on this video, I have got the keys to my new place, which is awesome. So at the same time there, giving you a little bit of a warning. I mean, I know you watch for the content, but my background will change. It might be very ugly for some time whilst I'm setting it up, so do bear with me as I have a little bit of a moving shift in my life and also set up a new studio space, and if videos are a bit odd with their timing. But other than that, there's a lot to talk about and some big stories, so I'll be checking that comment section. But what you can do to help me is click that like button. It helps me out a bunch. Do consider subscribing for more news breakdowns, reviews, and other videos on this channel. We are aiming to do a variety here and just branch out more and more in the future. Click on the links down in the description below if you want to follow me a bit more. I have a merch store there. You can join to become a member of the channel, and maybe click that super thanks button if you want to go the extra mile to support the channel. But thank you everyone so much for watching. I really do hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see everyone in the next video. Goodbye.